to grow, communities across the country are rethinking how they stay competitive. We have all had this conversation. I know I've had this conversation individually with both of you about infrastructure and sort of the mindset that we've had in this community about infrastructure and its opportunities to help bring costs down for people that live here. We've taken sort of the approach from a CPS and a SALS standpoint, and I know that the county judge doesn't oversee SALS or CPS, but you do have a role in economic development. So should we be going with the Field of Dreams approach, build it and hope they come, or should we be going with the mindset of we're going to build it when they come? Mayor Nirenberg, your first chance.
Sure. Well, I think it's critically important that we have to understand that growth is happening everywhere in this community, and we have to get ahead of it. And so that means making sure that we have infrastructure available for the communities that we know are coming. Sewer and water infrastructure is absolutely vital to make sure that we're not building communities that are going to decline rapidly in the next 10, 20 years. We also have to make sure that we are delivering on our infrastructure plan with respect to major thoroughfares. And so getting ahead of the growth with infrastructure investments is critically important, and it requires collaboration. We have a lot of resources that are going in opposite directions through agencies like the RMA and infrastructure plans at the city and the county. We've got to work to collaborate all of those units of government so that we're doing more with less, because right now, status quo is, as I said in the opening, creating the slums of tomorrow. And so we've got to get ahead of it, I believe, in proactive investment so we can accommodate the growth of the future.
Thank you, Mayor Nirenberg. Judge Sakai?
Let me be clear. Infrastructure is the key to economic development. Growth is what creates prosperity. And that's what I brought with strong, steady, effective leadership to Bexar County. I've brought economic development for more, better paying jobs. Remember, no minimum wage jobs isn't going to move the needle, careers are. And we need that for economic prosperity. By the way, as a point of personal privilege, could I recognize America Katera? Are you in the room? Y'all came to see me. Stand up. Stand up, please. This is our newest Japanese industry who has established our headquarters as a result of my direct conversation with Tony Yamaguchi. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Mayor Katera, for your presence as we build. By the way, next month, we're going to open up with Senko Plastics on groundbreaking with their partnership with Optech, Max Navarro. That's another business industry that I have recruited and brought as a result of 2 economic development trips to Japan and my relationship. What we need to do with CPS, and I'll address the CPS and SAWS. They are city entities that I've asked that county have representation and that we've not yet gotten there. By the way, the county needs its CPS revenue that the unincorporated areas, the suburban cities pay, and result for the revenue for the county. Those have gone on deaf ears for my 3 years as county judge. So yeah, we need collaboration. We need economic development. It has to be tied to infrastructure. The South Texas Parkway is another example of pushing that so that we can make that South Side truly a viable economic generator for our community. Thank you.
All right. Now, Mayor Nirenberg, you have 1 minute to rebut, and after you,
Sure.
Judge Sakai will have another 1 minute.
Well, some of these things, with all due respect, I'm hearing for the first time. These are settled issues with respect to board representation. Those are board governing documents that would have to undo all of the debt of SAWS and CPS. These are issues we've been talking about literally for decades. So these are not campaign talking points. These are real issues. And we don't disagree. Judge Sakai and I do not disagree. And let me be really clear and address the elephant in the room. Peter Sakai is a good and decent man. I have great admiration for the work that he did as a children's court judge, but this is a chief executive role of a 5,000-member organization that has to collaborate with dozens of elected officials and jurisdictions way far outside of the city's reach. So we've got to work together to move our community forward. Yamaguchi, we are so glad that you're here. I enjoyed visiting with you all, and we enjoyed visiting with Seiko as well. These kinds of achievements take years and years and years. Great things can happen when we're not worried about who gets credit. There's a whole team that takes great measure in making sure that we're recruiting the good jobs and working together to create economic opportunity. We need more collaboration, not less, and that's why I'm running to be Bexar County Judge.
Thank you, Mayor Nirenberg. County Judge?
I'll tell you what the elephant in the room is why is my opponent running against me? Two good, strong Democrats for a leadership position. We have issues at the highest level with the Trump policies, the federal policies that have created cuts to Medicaid and affordable care subsidies. We've got cuts to SNAP and food stamps and food assistance. We've got affordable housing crisis. Those are what we have to push back. That's what local government county judge has to do, and that's the reason why I put that as the elephant in the room. Why is Ron running for county judge?
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, on to workforce development and economic mobility. We mentioned Chris Corso, who's walking out. He's our former chair of workforce and our chair-elect. And nobody at the Metro Chamber knows more about this topic than him. So I'm a little sad he's going to potentially miss your answer here. So economic growth ultimately depends on having a workforce that's prepared to meet employer needs. Let's shift now to this workforce and mobility, economic mobility arena. Mayor Nirenberg, we'll start with you on this question. So for background, through initiatives like Ready to Work, the city has invested heavily in workforce training, wraparound services, and employer partnerships. My question to you is, what key lessons from Ready to Work or other city workforce efforts would you apply at the county level to better align workforce development with economic growth and regional employment needs?
Great, thank you. Well, first big lesson is alignment. We've got to get aligned. And I will tell you, when I talk to communities outside of San Antonio, they recognize that San Antonio has one of the best resource workforce pipelines in the country, from early childhood with our pre-K initiative all the way through Alamo Promise and now adult workforce training through Ready to Work. We've got to be aligned in this community to make sure that we're putting as much of our resources to good work and getting people to good paying jobs. And I know we're probably going to talk about public safety. Let me just say one thing. My philosophy is if you want to respond to crime, we got to have the best resource law enforcement we can afford. If we want to prevent crime, make sure people have pathways to good paying jobs. And so we're working on good paying jobs. I'll give you some positive lessons learned from Ready to Work. We've got to connect the employers to the providers and make sure there's a portal to ensure that the participants have seamless entry into the jobs that we're training for. The other big one is it's got to be dynamic. We can't just be training for education's sake. We're not training to give people degrees. We're training to get people good paying jobs. And so making sure that the training programs are appropriate to the real world economy, that they can change as the economy changes, because we live in the real world. Those things change. We can't be so fixated on the jobs we want. We've got to make sure that we're training for the jobs that we have and we know are coming. One thing I would also say, though, is that we're also in pursuit of changing the economic trajectory of this community. Poverty is our biggest issue, and that takes time. So setting expectations. Ready to Work is an incredible program, and it's changing lives, and I wish I had more minutes to talk about it, but it is changing lives in this community by the thousands. And that doesn't happen overnight. If there's one big lesson learned, we've got set expectations. It takes time to break poverty. It takes time to remove life barriers for folks and get them into good paying jobs.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Nirenberg. Judge Sakai, Bexar County's Texas Fast Track Workforce Program, developed in partnership with Texas FAME Alamo Chapter, provides intensive 10-week training to prepare residents for high-demand advanced manufacturing jobs and has expanded with county funding and employer involvement. The question to you is, how do you see Texas Fast Track and other county workforce initiatives evolving to meet current labor demands and needs, and what additional steps would you take to expand their impact if you continue to be in office?
Thank you for that question. I think that's one question and one issue that really separates me from my opponent. I'm going to put on record, the Ready to Work program has not created a return of investment. The projected goals have not been met. It was a tremendous diversion of the sales tax from the Edwards Aquifer Protection to the Ready to Work. I think that's created severe consequences in regards to the protection of the aquifer. In regards to the return on investment and what separates the county and the city is the county, as you mentioned, Paul, has created Texas Fast Track and Texas FAME. They are the highest rated program of workforce development. They are focused on advanced manufacturing. We are making sure that our industries in our community are being met. Fast Track has a 90% graduation and a 90% retention by the employers. Why? Because it's employer-driven. How did that happen? Because I listened to the employers and we created programs. Texas Fast Track is a 10-week program. We operate at a fraction of what the Ready to Work program does. And so I submit to you that that is the difference. Great ideas, great program. It created a tremendous investment, but it did not get a rate of return. It did not return anything close to what it was supposed to do. And so, as your county judge, I will continue to expand Texas Fast Track to meet the needs through an employer-driven. The employers tell us what they need, and we've delivered it, and we will continue to do so as your county judge.
I love Texas Fast Track. Great program. Manufacturing techs. It's one job. It's a great program, and it does great at its job. It costs $15,000 per participant, and we get about 60 applicants, top level, every year. Ready to Work is changing the direction of poverty in this community. Yeah, it was off to a slow start, but let me tell you, for the 3,200 people in the first 2 years of graduates that have graduated from this program, their average pay on entry went from $11,000 in a household to $44,000 with benefits. That's a life of dependency turned into a life of economic mobility and financial independence, with those children now much more likely to achieve their own educational outcomes and career advancements. If we want to have the audacity to talk about poverty in this community, we've got to have the audacity to do something about it, and Ready to Work is one of those things that is making yeoman's work here. And I will tell you, if those 3,200 people stopped working today, the economic impact, the ROI of just their increased wages into our economy in 2 years was $116 million. That's more than what we actually paid for those programs in the first 2 years. But there are 15,000 plus people in the pipeline. This program is moving. It is changing the direction of lives and this economy. Now, let's say one last thing about the Edwards Aquifer Protection Program. Thank you to my colleagues, because we work creatively to find a perennial source, an ongoing sustainable source for the Edwards Aquifer Protection Program, and we have continued to conserve land over the Edwards Aquifer, upwards almost of 200,000 acres at this point. So the Edwards Aquifer Protection Program is alive and well. We need to have leadership who is willing to stand up to protect the Edwards Aquifer, and that's what I will continue to do also as your county judge.
Thank you, Mayor Nirenberg. Judge Sakai, you have 1 minute rebuttal.
Thank you for making my case. 3,200 jobs when the projection was 40,000, reduced to 26,000, reduced to 18,000. It's still going.
It's
At
still
$200
going,
million
Judge.
a year and 3,200 jobs. More importantly, we don't see those jobs going to the employers that are participating. The program has not been a success. And you ask the employer, you ask the business community of what their needs are. And the reason being, it's not an employer-driven program. It's a bureaucracy. And I will continue as your county judge to focus in on programs that are efficient, effective, provide better customer service, be open and transparent. And that's the reason why the Texas Fast Track will expand. It will meet the needs for our advanced manufacturing community, and it will continue to attract industries such as American Catera, Senko Plastics that are coming because they know, JCB is coming because they knew that the county was meeting the needs of what they needed in their employees.
30 seconds, that's all I asked, Paul.
I'm going to have to give Judge Sakai 30 seconds.
Okay, that's fine. We don't need to be competing on this. These are both good programs. I'm just telling you, Ready to Work is at a scale that is unseen in the entire country. I applaud Judge Sakai for the 60 applicants who are placed in jobs every year. We're getting thousands at Ready to Work. And by the way, Texas Fast Track was created in 2020. So this is a program that he has continued, and I applaud him for doing that. But we got to be working together, folks. Alignment and collaboration is what we are missing in this community, and that's what we need, and that's what I will help to bring.
Thank you, Mayor Nirenberg.
And that goes both ways, Mayor.
Okay. Great. Okay, on to regional mobility. As you both know, I am a county appointee to the VIA Metropolitan Board. As VIA moves forward with Silver Line, and this first, Judge Sakai will be able to answer first here. As we move forward with the Silver Line and continues planning for future corridors like the Green Line, how do you see Bexar County's role evolving in supporting, coordinating, and sustaining these projects over time? More broadly, what responsibilities should the county have in ensuring that these transit investments align with regional growth, workforce access, and long-term mobilities? And more importantly, how can the county work with the city to help provide policy that supports investment around these ART lines?
Thank you, Paul. Great question. Let me make it perfectly clear that as county judge, I am committed to public transportation. I came in there knowing that multimodal solutions were needed for our traffic grid and for economic growth. VIA came to the county because they could not get the funding for the Silver Line, which I believe is the game changer that ties into referendums A and B, which ties the east side to the west side, from Our Lady of the Lake to Frostbank Center, which will now get a revitalization of the east side. And as a result, I have asked VIA, and I got a commitment from VIA, thank you, Paul, as a board member, that VIA has also partnered up with the county to make sure that economic development occurs. I just don't want those bus benches. I want to create little economic centers that will create growth in the urban core. And that's the reason why we just need to get the cars off the road. No more cars on I-35. That's the reason why I started the discussion on rail, and we will continue to do so. A lot of obstacles to that, but I started that after it went and did not come back. And we are still working with Judge Andy Brown in Travis County. We're working with TxDOT. I had Bruce Bugg, and the TxDOT is, and we're considering rail. We'll just have to find the solutions to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Mayor Nirenberg.
So setting the expectations game, we've been having this rail conversation for the last 35 years and hasn't produced anything because we lack the financial and political capital in Austin to get it done. So level setting expectation, we both agree on rail. We got to continue to pursue that, but it's going to take time, and we don't want to promise that for tomorrow. But that conversation's been going for a long time. The conversation was about VIA and the ART. We absolutely need to support transit-oriented development. We've got to continue with the infill program of SA Tomorrow, and that's a collaborative work between the city and the county and all the other jurisdictions. Let me be very clear about one thing, though. This was not a gift from Peter Sakai. This was the city, myself, along with VIA, going to the county and asking them to release the ATD funds that were sitting as a bank balance for years and sitting there waiting for it to come out of the bureaucracy so we can actually live up to the promise that we gave to the federal government 4 years ago to get that money to actually build the capital on the Silver Line. When they finally got their act together to release the money, then we were actually starting to say we got it done. But that wasn't a victory, Judge. That was a symptom of the problem. We nearly had our funding pulled by the FTA because we didn't have the application complete without those dollars. So we finally got it done. Thank you. It is moving forward, but we got to be proactive, folks. Opportunity is coming at us at a speed we did not see in the 1990s, and we've got to capture it with being proactive, having a plan, and that's what I intend to do.
Okay. Judge?
You're welcome, Ron, for the county's contribution to the Silver Line of $102 million, which was leveraged then for $300 million of federal funds. We got the job done. Strong, steady, effective leadership. So I understand the 20, 30 years of how county government is operated. But I have brought change to the county government. I want it more effective, efficient. I want it more open and transparent. And I want better customer service. And that's the reason why we got the Silver Line. And I'm just grateful for our community, for my commissioner's court that supported me when I asked that we approve that, and we did. And the money's been delivered to VIA. And we look forward to the expansion of economic growth to economic prosperity. You're welcome, Ron.
All right. On to the next area. So duplication of city-county services. So Bexar County and City of San Antonio provide several overlapping services such as public health, infrastructure support, social services, and administrative functions, which can create inefficiencies and added costs. As fiscal pressure grows, there is increasing interest in better coordination, shared services, or consolidation without sacrificing service quality. My question to you is, Where do you see the most urgent need to reduce redundancies between the city and the county? And how would you realistically implement those changes? And I'm going to let Mayor Nirenberg answer this first.
Sure. Well, it's long been a pipe dream to have consolidated city and county government, I'm sure, for folks in this room. But let me tell you, when Judge Wolf was in office, we were working daily to try to find functional consolidation. Those conversations were moving forward, and then, of course, the bottom dropped out of this entire world with the COVID pandemic. We need to get back to those conversations. And I attempted to with Judge Sakai, but we had fewer meetings I can count on two hands in the entire 2.5 years with respect to consolidation and city collaboration, city-county collaboration on these issues. Top of the list, I would say, is housing. First thing we could do is stop not creating new silos. We've got a strategic housing implementation plan. It's got to be delivered. It's got to have everyone working together to pool their resources to move affordable housing forward. And as a result of the delays in the downtown ballpark situation, there's now a new housing plan for the urban core. And guess what? That's exactly the place that we're already working as a city, as a community with the SHIP. And that was already actually recognized and adopted by the county several years ago. So we've got to work together and not build more silos. I would also put ACS in that bucket. Animal care services need to work together. We can also talk about the bureaucratic bloat in our economic development functions. We've got to work more nimbly to get more for less in our communities. And lastly, I will say, you said, Paul, how do we ensure that we do this without sacrificing service quality? I will tell you that duplication and redundancy is sacrificing service quality. We need more folks doing the work, less people managing the folks that are doing the work. And so, I think there's a lot of opportunity with collaboration. I want to get down to it. We have been, we can, we need to.
Thank you, Mayor Nirenberg. Judge Sakai?
Let me give you a specific example of the duplication that I have been advocating and asking for collaboration. Double magistration. What does that mean? You get arrested, you got to go through city magistrate, and then you sit there and you wait hours, and then you got to go over to the county and do the same thing all over again. I have pointed it out. I've asked the city to eliminate double magistration. It is, I believe, a violation of those people's rights sitting in that jail, and it's caused tremendous problems. That's why we have the issues at the jail, because of the duplication. While the mayor was in office, we couldn't move forward. Maybe that's the reason why I said, forget it. Let's move on. Let's figure out other issues that are just as important. We've got experts that have said we got to eliminate double magistration. It's terribly ineffective and inefficient, and it's costing the treatment of individuals that go through that process. By law, and that's what separates Bexar County from the city of San Antonio. That is what we're required by law. And that's the reason why he can say that duplication is something that can be done, but by law, the county does what the state, the legislature allows us to do. The city, by home rule, does what it is allowed to do under its city ordinances and city charter. That's the reason why it's easy to say, let's eliminate duplication, but by law, the county has to do a core function, and that is running the jail, and that's under the sheriff, who is an elected official, who his duty is to the voters that elect him. That's what separates, and what he doesn't understand as county judge. It's not a county executive. It is a statutory job that you have to look at the Constitution to know what your power and authority is.
Thank you, Judge Sakai. Mayor Nirenberg, you have a minute to rebut.
Yeah, I don't want us to get into a he said about the meetings that never happened, but happy to address that if anybody wants to. County magistration, city magistration issue needs to be solved. It takes convening power of dozens of elected officials. And as he said, the sheriff is duly elected by the public. So is the county judge. But guess what? The county judge and the commissioner's court control the resources of this entire community. The county judge is elected by 2.2 million residents who want that problem solved. And so the county judge needs to be accountable to getting the folks in the room to solve it. We tried with the city, but as I said, we couldn't get that done without collaboration. So that's what needs to happen. I look forward to activating a criminal justice coordinating committee to bring the sheriff, the DA, the court system, as well as all the other arresting agencies in this community. It's not just the city of San Antonio and Bexar County. It's a lot of folks that rely on these facilities that are outdated, and every solution needs to be on the table. every solution. We've got to work on near-term stopgaps as well as long-term solutions. A diversion facility is absolutely needed in this community. That will help, but there's a lot of points in the chain of command that will only work if we convene folks and have some accountability from the top.
Thank you both for your answer. Now, I'm really proud to say that I'm not very familiar with this inefficient double magistration issue. So, all right, let's go on to downtown revitalization, Mission Ballpark, and the Spurs Arena. This is a fun one. So plans for a revitalized downtown include a proposed sports and entertainment district anchored by a potential Spurs Arena and a new Missions Ballpark on the opposite end of downtown. As county judge, how do you see your role in helping move these projects forward? And what leadership role should Bexar County play to ensure they deliver lasting economic and community value for the broader San Antonio region? And this time around, Mayor Nirenberg, your first answer.
We've got to deliver the vision. It's a tremendous vision. The downtown ballpark is one of the best put together sports deals I have seen public-private. We're not spending a dollar of public money. It's all coming from the tax increment created by the guarantees that the Weston Group, who owns the team, are putting into the facility. And by the way, on the housing side, we're actually creating more housing through this program and protecting residents who were previously exposed to the market in the soap factory units. We're protecting residents at the same time. And now I'm saying all this because the most important responsibility for the next county judge on delivering these plans is speaking the truth, even when it's tough. There's so much misinformation that came out about all these programs, and believe me, I've gotten a lot of heat for being in rooms where I'm frankly disagreeing with folks. But these are tremendous visions. The downtown project Marvel, along with the potential of the east side, could transform this community for the better, and we've got to stand in front, make sure people have the facts, and get the project delivered to the benefit of this entire community.
Thank you, Mayor Nirenberg. Judge Sakai.
As a result of my steady, effective leadership, we have a baseball stadium downtown, and it is a reality and is going to be an economic generator. How did that happen? It happened because the city and the baseball ownership could not come together, and they came to the county. I put a stipulation, no property tax revenue. We needed to have significant equity by the baseball ownership, and we needed to make sure that a local government entity owned the stadium and the property. That's what's in that deal. That's what's going to happen when we put that baseball stadium over by Fox Tech. I led the negotiations with SISD for the community benefit, which committed housing of 1,250 affordable housing in the urban core, a very specific, targeted program, and we created the Bexar County 5-year housing plan. Sure, he says it's not duplication because SISD came to me and said, we need help. And that's the reason why, unless we support our public schools by bringing families and children and increasing enrollment, those urban core school districts are not going to survive under the current public financing. That's the reason why the county has never leaned into housing, and that's the reason why, as county judge, that is a basic core function. The city residents in the urban core are also county residents, and that's the reason why I pushed county that had never done that in the past. Thank you.
All right, rebuttal.
The only portion that we were hoping that the county could do efficiently was to execute the land swap for the parking garage with SAISD, but they got caught in a bickering match over the fees for the parking garage that we ended up a year later with demands from SAISD to improve housing, which I agree with. We need housing in the urban core, which is why I talked about housing as part of the deal from the start. The problem with the plan is there's no resources attached to it, so it's a promise. And let me tell you, those promises are also in the Strategic Housing Implementation Plan, but that's why we passed a $150 million housing bond, so we can actually do the work we say we're going to do. So again, collaboration, not being so ready to take credit that you have to go to the Commissioner's Court to ask some permission to execute an MOU so that you could have a press conference saying you got the deal done, but actually doing the work is what's required to do big things in this community.
Okay, Judge Sakai, you get 1 minute for a rebuttal.
He said it. It's all talk. I brought an agreement to the table that has now created a baseball stadium. I hope the public appreciates that and gives me credit for it. We can argue over the details of how that happened and what are the details in that agreement. But most importantly, because I put working families first, I believe the most important part of that agreement was the support for SISD. And I will continue to support the urban core, the Harlandales, the Edgewoods, the South Sands. I am not going to forget them because they're just in the city of San Antonio. They are county residents too. And that's what separates me from my predecessor, the predecessor Commissioner's Court. They didn't touch it. They didn't warrant it to housing. And so it is just in my it's in my core that I support all people of Bexar County. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next topic, core county operations. All right, so Judge Sakai, we're going to begin with you this time. Many of the challenges facing Bexar County Jail today, staffing shortages, safety concerns, capacity pressures, and oversight requirements are not new, but have persisted across multiple administrations. What do you see as the underlying cause of these longstanding issues? And then a follow-up question would be, the Inner West Side has long had challenges being revitalized. Would you consider long-term putting the wheels in motion for the jail to be moved out of the West Side?
Great question. You've heard my opponent talk about the criminal justice system in the silos, the DAs, the sheriff. Let me explain to you, in the time allowed, how it's a complex issue of the criminal justice system. Look at a four-legged stool. It consists of the sheriff office as an elected official, the district attorney who prosecutes, the sheriff who arrests, the courts who adjudicate the cases and move cases along, and Commissioner's Court who funds all those budgets. It requires everyone, all four legs, to communicate, collaborate, and coordinate. Those pegs that keep it together. That's what brings a strong criminal justice system. And as a result of my leadership, we've reduced the population in the jail. We have committed to make sure that we're dealing with the inefficiencies and the ineffectiveness. Yes, there was a backlog, but that was a result of COVID. Yes, there's a backlog of overcrowding because we are keeping people who do not need to be on the streets. Let me make it real perfectly clear. The county judge cannot dictate to the elected official. He is not a chief executive officer. He is an elected official under the Constitution that has to work hand in hand. And I've got a great relationship. We've improved the relationship with the sheriff's office. We don't argue over a vote. I've worked with the DA's office to help them with their staffing and pay. We are moving the needle forward, and I am clearly supporting restorative justice, specialty courts with metrics, diversion program, and forensic beds. We need to get the people that do not belong in the jail to mental health beds, forensic beds, and I'm committed to build that, not a new jail. I will not support a new jail. Why? Because who's going to want that in their backyard? And two, it's a budget buster, which will require a property tax increase.
Thank you, Judge. Mayor Nirenberg?
Well, just from the top, we decided in 1988 it was good enough for the West Side. So I'm not saying we need a new jail today, but I think every solution needs to be on the table. Every solution, long-term solution. And jail overcrowding has gotten worse, folks. For the last 2 years, we spent millions of dollars to send additional inmates who we can't actually fit into the jail to other counties. Millions of your tax dollars because we can't get this situation right. And I do understand the county judge can't dictate to other elected officials. But guess what? I sat around the table from a lot of colleagues who I could not dictate either. We did some really good work together, from council members on the right, from Clayton Perry and Mark Wright, to council members on the left, from Jalen McKee Rodriguez and Terry Castillo and everybody in between. We got good work done because we collaborate. That's the only way we're going to solve these issues, folks. We got to get folks together in the room to collaborate diplomatically and help them understand the county commissioner's court and the judge control the purse strings of every single one of those departments. So we've got to work together on a collaborative solution because the same folks who elect the sheriff elect the county judge. So we're going to get it right. But every solution needs to be on the table. We need to identify short-term solutions with a coordinating committee of the DA, the sheriff, and all the court officials, as well as long-term solutions for really addressing this as the county grows. This county is growing lights out. There's going to be 9 million people along the corridor in a few short years. And so we've got to be ready for that future and not take any of those options off the table.
Thank you. Judge, would you like to rebut?
Yeah. What he said about bringing stakeholders together, that's what I've done. And that's my secret sauce of bringing the experts to the table to create solutions. We created a public safety committee when the city and the county went at each other over those repeat violent offenders who were shooting at police officers. We had a fight between the police department, city, SAPD, and the DA's office. Remember? Joe Gonzalez and Chief McManus. I brought them together, and we created solutions by working the four-leg stool. And yeah, it's created overcrowding, but that's the price to pay to protect our community. I do not believe in a new jail. I will tell you, under the principles of restorative justice, if we build a new jail, we will put more people in there, and it will be people that do not belong here, the mentally ill, the indigent, the homeless. Those are not long-term strategies. What we need to do is stay the course. We need to stay committed to restorative justice. We need our justice system to make sure that we rehabilitate and move people out, provide workforce development, provide affordable housing, provide and eliminate the food crisis and the healthcare crisis. Those are the underlying issues that I am committed to as your county judge. Those are the long-term solutions.
Okay. Mayor Nirenberg, you get a chance to rebut.
Yeah, I just want to be real clear. When we're talking about solutions like potentially a new jail, those are not substitutes for diversion and restorative justice. They've got to be working hand in hand. We've just got to be realistic about the growth in this community. We need a diversion facility. We need a diversion center to make sure that people who are coming into the jail, who shouldn't be there, but are there because they simply can't afford to bond out, they need medical treatment, they need substance abuse treatment. They need to get their lives back together for them to be contributing members of our community. We need to facilitate that through proper services. Building a new jail does not take care of that. What I am telling you, though, is that every option needs to be on the table, because for all the problems that the judge is identifying, we agree on those. But we disagree that it's getting better. It's actually getting worse, and status quo is totally unacceptable.
And
Okay,
what you're proposing will be a budget buster and create a property tax increase. And we can't do that on the seniors and the people that are marginalized. We've got to reduce property taxes in order for the working families to exist. And that's how we work as a community in unity. Great ideas, great thoughts, great speech, but no solutions.
Okay, since technically Mayor Nirenberg was supposed to have the last rebuttal, and Judge just rebutted a little bit. Like, we gave you the opportunity to earlier. Mayor Nirenberg, do you have anything to say?
We don't disagree on any of what he just said.
Okay.
And we need to do analysis. We need to do feasibility. We need to do the ROI and make sure it's not going to cost our residents more for this. But what I will tell you is that we got to stop, in some cases, being penny wise and pound foolish. We're sending millions of dollars to other communities to house our inmates. It costs a lot of money to run a substandard jail with detention officers who are being burned out. We've got to get ahead of those issues and stop taking solutions off the table that haven't even been thoughtfully analyzed. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Thank you. Thank you both. Okay, this last question is probably my favorite question of the day. And if we have time before closing statements, because I think we're actually doing well on time, we might have one bonus question. But, okay, so across the federal government, the state government, and here locally, we see politics being very divisive. You know, from the business community standpoint, I don't want to speak for everybody, but, you know, I feel like the general community, the neighborhood community, and the business community is tied at the hip. A lot of times that's not what is proclaimed out there in the public, right? We do well when our people are doing well, and the people do well, and the businesses are doing well. So how, as county judge, would both of you work to create more unity than division amongst not only the county leadership, but all of the elected leadership in the area?
It's what I've been doing for 40 years as a public servant, putting children and families first in finding solutions. I've found solutions in child abuse and neglect, child welfare. I've found solutions for domestic violence, putting the Collaborative Commission on Domestic Violence. It is a true collaboration between the city of San Antonio and Bexar County, and I'm proud of it. Thank you, Mayor, for supporting the Collaborative Commission on Domestic Violence. It's a complex issue, but we're working on it, and we're working on it together. We are facing an economic crisis. We've got housing insecurity, we've got food insecurity, we've got healthcare insecurity. We need to marshal our resources. And that's the reason why I am running for re-election, because we need to continue the strong, steady, effective leadership. We don't need to change course. We don't need an on-the-job training. We need people who know the law, because that's what separates county and city. So let me put the misinformation, or whatever information you're getting. You have to know the law. By the way, the county judges have pretty much been all lawyers since the beginning of time. I believe Albert Bustamante, may he rest in peace, was the last one that was not a lawyer. And so that's the reason why it takes strong, effective, steady leadership who knows the law. As a district court judge, as a children's court judge, I made those changes. I made improvements. I have results. And I believe that Bexar County is better for it, and we're building a better Bexar. And that's the reason why I'm asking for your support for re-election.
Thank you, Judge. Mayor Nirenberg?
Sure. Well, this is an important question because I think this is one of the most critical issues facing our community going forward, frankly, the country, as you can see. Community leadership is critically important for building unity. It's about tone. It's about being honest with people. It's about being open and transparent and willing to collaborate. I have, for the last 12 years, not viewed collaboration as a nuisance, but as a strength, and we will continue to do that across county departments and leaders, but also out in other jurisdictions, across party lines, across public and private sector. The same person I am today is the same one you elected for District 8 12 years ago. And so I will continue that and model the kind of unity and tone that we want to have in the community. We can disagree respectfully, and we've got to bring solutions to the table. I will say, though, on the county judge executive leadership, that is the requirement. Most major metros in this state are not run by attorneys, judges. They are county judges. They are executives and administrators of large organizations. In other communities, they're called the county mayor or the county executive. But what is required for this job is to do exactly what we've been talking about. Bring people together, be innovative, have vision, articulate a vision for the community, and actually build coalitions to the community, unite in the community around tough issues and getting them solved together. I'll continue to do that.
Paul, I have committed since I started as a public servant, and I made this message 40 years ago. It's about communication. It's about collaboration. It's about coordination. The 3 C's. That's why it starts at communication and ends at coordination, because you got to execute. You got to have results. And that's what I'm submitting to the public. Judge me on the results. Judge me on my 40 years as a public servant committed to working families, to protecting children, empowering families, improving the system. I have shown that I can deliver, and I am delivering Bexar County to be effective, efficient, to be open and transparent, to provide better customer service. And I submit that's the reason why I should be reelected, because we cannot change the course. We are living in a crisis, and we need strong, steady, effective leadership.
Thank you, Judge. Final rebuttal from Mayor Nirenberg. Yep, if you want one.
No, I mean, again, great admiration for Judge Sakai's career as a children's court judge, but we aren't running for that position anymore. This is a leadership position that requires us to do complex things with a myriad different organizations and elected officials and the public. And you should judge us by our records, but use the appropriate ones. County judge has been in his position for the last 3.5 years and has a record. I was the mayor of this city for 8 years. I have a record. We might disagree on some of those things, but that's what we were talking about today. We're not running for a judicial position. We are running to be the chief executive of this very complex, high opportunity area.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. So we're going to come to the final opportunity for closing statements here. Now, the closing statements, we're going to give each of you 2 minutes, but with no rebuttal, okay? We're going to have Mayor Nirenberg go first, since Judge Sakai went first on last question. So, Rich, let's keep account of that. We're doing 2 minutes for this, okay? So, Mayor Nirenberg, go ahead.
Sure. One issue we didn't talk about, which I also think is symptomatic, is the fact that I hope everyone in here goes to check their voter registration, because there's a bureaucratic bottleneck happening in voter registration in the elections department, which is also funded by the county, that needs to be fixed. So go check your voter registration, because voting starts in less than 3 weeks for early voting for this race. My name is Ron Nirenberg. I was very proud to be your mayor for the last 8 years and serve as your city council member before that. I put my heart and soul into this job to make sure that people have opportunity to live in one of the best places in the world. And I do believe, and I think all of you know it too, that we have everything in this community to be one of the best places, most prosperous, strongest, resilient places in Texas. It is 2026. We just have to start innovating and articulating a bigger vision that we've been talking about. And we've got to start working together across jurisdictions and stop waiting for the future to get to us. I have taken risks, and I will continue to take risks on behalf of this community. I have big ideas that are informed by the conversations I've been having with thousands of people all over this community for years. And so I'm asking for your vote to bring Bexar County to that vision that we've all had in our minds that I think is achievable when we're working together. So thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Judge Sakai, for a spirited debate. You have my respect. You don't have my vote. But I appreciate you all's attention and for allowing us to speak today.
And you don't have mine either.
Thank you, Mayor Nirenberg. Judge Sakai, closing statement.
You're going to keep the clock on. You've heard a lot of information and talk this morning. And you're right, Ron. It's been spirited, and you've put out what you believe is the difference. But I'm not going to take all my 2 minutes. I'm going to cut to the chase. If you voters think that he is the person that has solved all the city problems in his 8 years, then vote for him. But if you like the direction of the county and believe in my leadership and my commitment to building a better Bexar, then vote for me. That's what this election's all about. It's about the strength of character. It's a strength of integrity. It's the work values that my parents taught me. My parents taught me because I am the son of immigrants from Japan who came here nearly 100 years ago and were told to go back home, subject to discrimination and racism, subject to being told that they couldn't own land. Guess what? It's happening again. And that's the reason why I truly believe we have a constitutional crisis that I have spoken out against and condemned. We are in an economic crisis, food insecurity, housing insecurity, healthcare insecurity, and I am addressing it with putting grants and making sure the county is there to make sure people are fed, people have housing, people are protected. And that's reason why I'm asking for your vote for re-election. Thank you all very much for the opportunity to speak to you all.
Thank you, Judge. Well, I'm gonna hand it over back to our president and CEO Brett Finley for closing comments. But can we give the judge and Mayor Nirenberg a round of applause?